In the long history of the Vatican, succession has always been a matter of strategic calculations rather than simple spiritual discernment. In 1958, the conclave that elected Pope John XXIII was expected to choose a conservative candidate. Instead, his pontificate ushered in the Second Vatican Council, reshaping Catholicism in ways no one had anticipated. Could the next conclave hold similar surprises? If Pope Francis's health deteriorates further, will cardinals push for a quick conclave to maintain stability, or will internal factions seize the opportunity to steer the Church in a radically new direction? And if discussions about succession are already taking place within the Vatican, does that mean the outcome is already decided before the conclave even begins? Despite official silence, growing reports suggest that preparations for a potential conclave are well underway. While speaking publicly about the Pope's successor is considered inappropriate, internal Vatican politics function by their own set of rules. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. Behind closed doors, key figures are shaping alliances and positioning themselves for influence over the Church's future. The significance of the upcoming Jubilee year further intensifies the situation. If Pope Francis cannot complete this historic event, a rapid transition will be necessary to ensure continuity. Yet beyond the question of timing, the real struggle lies in the ideological direction the Church will take. For years, tensions between reformists and traditionalists have been escalating. Some believe the next pontiff should be a transitional figure, uniting the Church's different factions without making drastic changes. Others insist that the moment demands a clear shift, either toward greater doctrinal rigidity or further modernization. Inside the sacred palaces, strategies are unfolding with precision. Different factions are advancing their candidates, each pushing for a successor who aligns with their vision of Catholicism's future. High-ranking figures within the Curia are weighing not only theological considerations, but also geopolitical and institutional factors. As these undercurrents gain strength, what happens in the coming months will define the future of the Church for decades. The balance between continuity and transformation is more delicate than ever, and the battle for influence has already begun behind closed doors. Among those whose names circulate in the Vatican corridors, Pietro Parolin stands as the figure of institutional continuity. Having served as Secretary of State since 2013, he has spent a decade navigating the intricate power structures of the Holy See. His experience in high-stakes diplomacy has made him indispensable in balancing the often conflicting interests of the Church's global reach. With a career marked by delicate negotiations, he has been at the forefront of agreements that reshaped Vatican relations with key geopolitical players, most notably China and Cuba. There are moments when uncertainty clouds our path, and understanding the forces shaping our world becomes the key to finding clarity. In times like these, gaining proper knowledge is about transformation, about seeing beyond the surface and making sense of the changes that impact our lives. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers, a path to guidance and wisdom through his revelations. This ebook goes into his prophecies and offers insight into what lies ahead. It's available for free in the pinned comment. Grab it now before the edition's gone. His role in orchestrating the Vatican's provisional agreement with Beijing on the appointment of bishops remains one of his most controversial moves. The deal, aimed at securing a compromise between the Chinese government and the underground Catholic Church, was met with sharp criticism. While some praised it as a pragmatic step toward religious coexistence, others viewed it as a dangerous concession, allowing the Chinese Communist Party to exert greater influence over the Church's leadership. Similar concerns arose with the normalization of diplomatic relations with Cuba, where Parolin played a key role in facilitating discussions between the Holy See and the Castro regime. His reputation as a skilled negotiator makes him a compelling candidate for those seeking stability. Within the Roman Curia, he has gained the trust of many who view him as a steady hand in uncertain times. His ability to maintain institutional order without provoking radical shifts reassures traditionalists who fear a more progressive successor. Unlike candidates associated with a particular ideological faction, Parolin presents himself as a pragmatic leader, focused on preserving the operational mechanisms of the Church rather than introducing sweeping doctrinal changes. However, this very strength may also be his greatest limitation. His administrative expertise is undeniable, but he lacks the charismatic presence that has historically defined transformative popes. To many, he represents the Church as an institution rather than as a spiritual force. His training as a diplomat is helpful in dealing with other countries, but it makes people wonder if he can bring together a very split Catholic community. Would his pontificate be one of cautious management rather than decisive action? In a time when the Church faces theological fractures and declining engagement, some question whether a bureaucratic figure can truly guide Catholicism through its most pressing spiritual challenges. Matteo Zuppi has positioned himself as one of the most intriguing figures in the race for the papacy. Unlike the bureaucratic precision of Parolin, Zuppi carries an entirely different appeal, one that merges pastoral warmth with strategic adaptability. As the Archbishop of Bologna and president of the Italian Bishops' Conference, he has managed to build a reputation that extends beyond ideological lines. He is often described as a bridge builder, capable of navigating both progressive and conservative currents without alienating either side. This balancing act has made him a candidate that many see as an extension of Francis's vision, yet without the sharp divisions that have marked the current pontificate. His ties to the community of Sant'Egidio, an influential Catholic movement known for its diplomatic efforts and humanitarian work, further define his approach. Having worked extensively in conflict mediation, particularly in Africa and the Balkans, Zuppi's emphasis on dialogue has drawn admiration from those who seek a pope focused on peacemaking. His involvement in diplomatic efforts, including attempts to mediate in the ongoing war in Ukraine, signals a continuation of the Vatican's role in global negotiations. His supporters argue that this experience makes him an ideal candidate for a church increasingly engaged in international affairs. In times of change, having the right guidance makes all the difference. If you haven't downloaded your free copy yet, don't wait. Only a few remain. Find it now in the first pinned comment. However, his ability to engage with diverse perspectives has also raised concerns about the clarity of his theological positions. While he embraces many of the progressive themes championed by Francis, including a more inclusive stance toward marginalized groups, he has simultaneously maintained strong relationships with more traditional Catholic factions. His support from the LGBT community in Bologna and his engagement with conservative Catholic movements reflect a deliberate strategy, one that values broad appeal over rigid doctrinal stances. This has led some to question whether his leadership would bring decisive action or simply prolong the internal debates that have already left the Church fractured. For the more radical progressives, Zuppi's inclination toward balance appears insufficient, as they seek a leader willing to push reforms further. Conversely, for conservatives who long for a doctrinal reset, his openness to change presents a challenge. This duality defines his candidacy, a figure who offers continuity without direct confrontation, but whose papacy could risk becoming one of endless negotiation rather than firm direction. Luis Antonio Tagle represents a vision of Catholicism that extends beyond traditional European dominance. His background is in the Philippines, a country where Catholicism thrives despite pressure from other countries. His rise in the church has been shaped by a strong pastoral approach and a sharp theological mind. His tenure as Archbishop of Manila positioned him as a key figure in the Asian Church, but it was his appointment as prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples that cemented his status as a global contender. His work has been instrumental in expanding Catholic influence across regions where the faith faces competition from Islam, Protestantism, and secularization. His close relationship with Pope Francis is undeniable, often regarded as his ideological heir. Targil embodies many of the same values: openness, a commitment to the poor, and a willingness to modernize aspects of church governance. In many of his speeches, he talks about how important it is for the church to listen before it speaks, which is a spiritual model that strikes a chord in developing countries. Unlike the more administrative figures in the running, his charisma and ability to connect with the faithful make him a compelling option for those who want a leader capable of rekindling engagement in a time of dwindling participation in the West. But his strong support for Francis makes people wonder if his election would really mean continuity or just a repackaged version of the current pontificate. His approach to theological matters has been cautious, never outright opposing church traditions, but gently steering conversations toward reform. While his globalist vision appeals to those who wish to see Catholicism fully embrace its international character, it has also generated unease among more conservative circles, who view his rise as part of a broader shift away from doctrinal rigidity. His election would mark a historical milestone as the first Asian pope, a powerful statement in an era where the center of Catholic growth has moved beyond Europe. Yet, his influence remains strongest in the global South, leaving open the question of whether he could unify a deeply divided church. As discussions intensify, his supporters present him as a symbol of a future-oriented papacy, while critics worry that his governance might prolong theological ambiguity rather than resolve it. Understanding these shifts isn't just about knowledge, it's about clarity in uncertain moments. Your free copy is still available, but not for long. Grab yours in the first pinned comment before it's gone. Fridolin Ambongo Basungu stands as a stark contrast to the candidates aligned with Francis's progressive reforms. As Archbishop of Kinshasa, he has gained recognition not only for his theological clarity, but also for his unwavering defense of traditional Catholic teachings. His voice has been particularly strong on issues concerning the sanctity of marriage and the role of the family, making him a favored candidate among those who seek a return to more defined doctrine. His stance against certain doctrinal openings, particularly those concerning blessings for same-sex couples, has drawn both admiration and resistance. His influence extends beyond theology. In a continent where Catholicism is expanding at an extraordinary rate, Ambongo represents a growing faction within the Church that is unwilling to compromise on core principles. Unlike European or North American Catholic communities, African congregations have largely resisted secular influences, holding firmly to values that they believe should remain unchanged. His leadership within the Symposium of Episcopal Conferences of Africa and Madagascar has reinforced his position as a figure capable of mobilizing support among bishops who see the Church's future shifting toward the global South. His assertiveness in matters of justice and governance also sets him apart. Ambongo has been an outspoken critic of political corruption in the Democratic Republic of Congo, often clashing with government authorities over issues of human rights and economic inequality. His outspokenness has positioned him as a moral authority in a region where the Church remains one of the few institutions capable of challenging state power. This has given him credibility among cardinals who believe that the next pope should be unafraid to confront global injustices rather than prioritize diplomatic neutrality. His strong beliefs, on the other hand, make him a volatile figure. His focus on strict doctrine may turn off more liberal church members, especially those in Latin America and Europe, who have supported Francis's call for inclusion. A lot would change if he became pope compared to the last 10 years in terms of theology, which could cause problems within the hierarchy again. Some see him as a candidate who could bring order back, while others are worried that he could make things more divided at a time when unity is already weak. Sergio da Rocha emerges as a figure who embodies the possibility of an even bolder progressive path for the Church. His name is closely associated with the continuation, if not the acceleration, of the reforms initiated under Francis. Appointed cardinal in 2016, his work as Archbishop of Brasilia and later as Archbishop of Salvador has cemented his reputation as a leader willing to address controversial social issues without hesitation. His approach to pastoral care is marked by an emphasis on inclusion, making him a strong contender for those who believe the Church must fully embrace the modern world. His openness to LGBTQ+ inclusion and his efforts to foster a more welcoming environment for marginalized communities have won him support among those advocating for a church more aligned with contemporary social values. Unlike candidates who attempt to balance progressivism with tradition, da Rocha has been clear in his willingness to push boundaries. His supporters argue that he represents the future of a Catholicism that refuses to be confined by rigid interpretations of doctrine, while his critics claim that his views risk alienating those who still hold fast to traditional teachings. The decisions unfolding today could shape more than just history. They could shape your perspective. If you haven't already, claim your free copy now. Limited downloads remaining. First pinned comment. Beyond his theological stances, his leadership in the Latin American Episcopal Conference has given him substantial influence across a region where Catholic identity remains strong but increasingly contested by evangelical movements. His emphasis on social justice, particularly his advocacy for the poor and the environment, places him in direct alignment with the principles of liberation theology, a movement that has long been met with resistance from conservative factions within the Vatican. His views on economic disparity and climate change echo Francis's encyclicals, reinforcing the perception that his election would be a seamless extension of the current papacy. If this message makes you think and you feel it connects with you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Also, if you really want to support our work and help us keep creating valuable content, consider giving us a super thanks. Join this amazing community and don't miss any news. However, his candidacy is not without its risks. A pontificate that aggressively advances reform could deepen existing divisions, particularly in regions where more conservative interpretations of Catholicism remain dominant. His election would mark a definitive step toward reshaping the Church's identity, but it could also provoke backlash from those who view such changes as an abandonment of fundamental principles. His supporters see him as a necessary force to modernize the faith, while his opponents warn that his vision could permanently fracture an already fragile institution.